Have you ever felt it? That sudden, inexplicable weight in the middle of a crowded room. A momentary shiver that whispers you are far away from where you are supposed to be. It's a feeling of being an actor who has walked onto a stage, only to realize they have forgotten every single line of the play. You look at the other actors and they seem so certain, so anchored in their roles, but you see the flickering of the stage lights. You see the paint peeling on the cardboard walls of the world, and for a split second, you remember that this isn't home. What if I told you that this feeling is the only honest thing you have ever felt? What if the you that wakes up, drinks coffee, and worries about the future is actually a carefully constructed mask? A mask worn by something far older, far more vast, and infinitely more powerful. You are suffering from a condition you didn't know you had. It is a silent epidemic that has claimed the soul of the modern world. We call it the Great Amnesia. Take a deep breath, and as you exhale, try to find the edge of who you think you are. Where does your identity end and the world begin? Most of us believe we are the skin-encapsulated ego, a biological accident navigating a cold, indifferent universe. We have been taught that we are small, that we are finite, and that we are lucky to even exist at all. But this is the primary lie of the amnesia. It is a veil pulled so tight over our eyes that we have mistaken the texture of the fabric for the texture of reality itself. We have forgotten that we did not come into this world, we came out of it. Much like a wave is not something traveling on the ocean, but rather a movement of the entire ocean itself. You are not a guest in this universe. You are the host who has forgotten his own party. Think about the first few years of your life. Before you had a name, before you had a nationality, before you were told what was good and what was bad. There was a time when you didn't perceive a separation between the light hitting the wall and the eyes that saw it. You were the light. You were the wall. You were the very act of seeing itself. But then, the world began to domesticate you. It gave you a label. It told you that you were this and not that. It taught you to trade your infinite potential for a specific, manageable personhood. This was the birth of the ego, the necessary I that allows us to navigate the 3D world. But somewhere along the way, the tool became the master. We became so obsessed with the map that we forgot the territory existed. We became so focused on the character we were playing that we forgot the actor behind the mask. And now we live in a state of constant, low-level anxiety, because deep down, the soul knows it's living a lie. The soul knows it is a lion being told it is a house cat. Carl Jung once suggested that the modern man's greatest tragedy is that he has lost his myth. We no longer look at the stars and see our ancestors. We see cold gas and empty distance. We no longer look at our dreams as messages from the deep. We see them as neurological noise. By explaining the world, we have drained it of its magic. And in doing so, we have drained ourselves of our power. The power we forgot isn't the power to control others or to accumulate gold. It is the power of the observer. In the world of quantum physics, we are discovering what the ancient mystics knew 5,000 years ago. Matter is not solid. It is a shimmering field of probability that only collapses into a fixed state when it is watched. If this is true, then you are not a victim of circumstances. You are the silent witness whose very gaze is stitching the fabric of reality together. Every time you say, I am, you are making a claim on the infinite. But because of the amnesia, we use this power against ourselves. We say, I am tired, I am poor, I am unworthy. We use the language of the Creator to build a prison of the created. We have forgotten that the word person comes from the Latin persona, which literally means a mask. Underneath that mask is a void, but it is not a hollow void. It is a pregnant void. It is the same emptiness that allows a room to be useful. Without the space, the walls are just a solid block. Your original power lies in that space. It lies in the silence between your thoughts. But the world is designed to make sure you never find that silence. It feeds you noise, it feeds you conflict, and it feeds you a never-ending stream of problems to solve. Because as long as you are solving problems, you are looking outward. And as long as you are looking outward, you won't notice the one who is looking. Stop for a moment and listen to the sound of your own existence. Not your thoughts about your life. Not your plans for tomorrow. Just the raw, wordless fact that you are. In that I amness, there is no age. There is no gender. There is no history. There is only a pure, luminous awareness that is the same today as it was when you were 5 years old. This is the part of you that never fell. This is the part of you that did not forget. The Great Amnesia is only a layer of dust on a mirror, and the mirror is perfectly fine underneath. But we have become so identified with the dust that we are afraid of the cloth that would wipe us clean. We think that if we lose our limitations, we will lose ourselves. But you cannot lose what you are. You can only lose what you are pretending to be. We have been conditioned to fear the unknown, but the unknown is simply the territory where your original power lies. The known is a cage made of old memories and recycled thoughts. To wake up is to realize that the cage door has been open the entire time. The door is open, but we stay inside because we've forgotten how to fly. We look at the sky and call it a concept. We look at our wings and call them anomalies. We have become experts at justifying our own smallness. We use logic to defend our limitations and call it being realistic. But what is reality? Is it the 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum that our eyes can perceive? Is it the narrow band of frequency that our ears can hear? We are literally blind to 99% of what is happening around us right now. We are swimming in a sea of dark matter, neutrino bursts, and quantum fluctuations, and yet we claim to know the truth of our situation. The Great Amnesia is a biological filter. If we saw everything at once, our brains would melt. So, the brain acts as a reducing valve. It shuts out the infinite, so we can focus on the sandwich in front of us. This is helpful for survival, but it is lethal for the spirit. We have mistaken the survival mechanism for the meaning of life. We have become so good at surviving that we have forgotten how to be. We are human beings, not human doings. Yet our entire society is built on the glorification of doing. We measure our worth by our output, our bank accounts, and our social status. These are all symptoms of the amnesia. They are the toys we play with because we've forgotten we own the toy store. Imagine waking up in a library with billions of books, but you have been told you are only allowed to read one page. And you have read that page so many times that you've memorized every word. You think that page is the whole world. You argue with others about the font and the margins of that one page. That is the current state of human consciousness. But the original power is the ability to turn the page. It is the realization that you are the author, the reader, and the paper itself. This isn't just poetic metaphor. It is a psychological reality. When you shift your identity from the object, your body, your thoughts, to the subject, the awareness of those things, the world begins to lose its grip on you. Fear starts to feel like a weather pattern rather than a permanent state of being. You realize that you are the sky, and the clouds, no matter how dark or stormy, cannot hurt the sky. They pass through you, but they are not you. This shift in perspective is the beginning of the end of the amnesia. It is the first crack in the mask. But why did we forget in the first place? Some say it was a fall from grace. Others say it was a cosmic game, a hide and seek that God plays with himself. If you were an infinite being who knew everything and could do everything, the only thing you couldn't experience is surprise. You couldn't experience the thrill of discovery. So you created a game. You put on a mask. You walked into a hall of mirrors and pretended to be lost. You made the game so convincing that you even convinced yourself. You created the Great Amnesia so that the Great Remembering would feel like the most beautiful thing in the universe. If that's true, then your struggle, your pain, and your feeling of being lost are actually part of the artistry. They are the shadows in a painting that give the light its meaning. But the game only works if you eventually remember it's a game. If you stay lost forever, the art becomes a prison. Take a deep breath again. Feel the air entering your lungs. That air was once inside a star. That air has been breathed by saints and tyrants alike. It is a continuous thread of life that has never been broken. You are a localized point of a universal process. You are the universe humaning for a brief moment in time. The tragedy is that we take our humaning so seriously that we forget the universe part. We think we are the ripple, forgetting we are the water. And because we think we are separate, we live in fear. Fear of loss, fear of death, fear of not being enough. But how can a ripple be not enough when it is made of the entire ocean? The Great Amnesia tells you that you are alone. It tells you that you have to fight for your place in the world. It tells you that you are a fragment in a broken machine. But your original power is the power of wholeness. When you touch that wholeness, the need to fight disappears. Not because you've won, but because you've realized there was no enemy. There was only a misunderstanding. There was only a shadow cast by the ego's candle. When you turn on the sun of your true awareness, the shadows don't just move, they vanish. They never had a reality of their own. They were just the absence of you. We spend so much time trying to fix ourselves. We go to therapy, we read self-help books, we try new diets. We are trying to polish the mask. But the mask doesn't need polishing. It needs to be seen for what it is. You don't fix a dream, you wake up from it. Waking up is not a loud event. It is a quiet realization. It's the moment you're watching a movie and you suddenly remember you're sitting in a theater. The movie is still playing the drama, the romance, the action, it is all there. But you are no longer suffering with the hero. You are watching the flickering light. That watching is your original power. It is the I that exists before I am a doctor or I am a failure. It is the I that remains when everything else is stripped away. And the secret they don't want you to know is that this I is the same in everyone. We are like 1,000 different lamps plugged into the same electric current. The lamps are different shapes and colors. Some are bright, some are dim. But the light is the same. The amnesia makes us focus on the glass of the lamp. The awakening makes us realize we are the electricity. And once you know you are the electricity, you stop being afraid of the glass breaking. Consider for a moment the tragedy of the word. We live in a world of labels, a world where we have mistaken the menu for the meal. The moment you name a bird, you stop seeing the bird. You only see your concept of it. You see a sparrow, a label, a category. The Great Amnesia is fueled by this constant need to define. We define our feelings, our relationships, and our potential, effectively building a ceiling over our own heads. We have forgotten that reality is a nameless, flowing current that cannot be captured in the net of language. When you say, I know, you are actually closing a door. True power lies in not knowing. It lies in that state of radical openness, where you allow the universe to speak to you without your mental filters. But we are terrified of the silence that comes with not knowing. We fill the void with chatter, with opinions, and with the constant repetition of our own personal history. We tell our stories over and over again, reinforcing the walls of our prison. I am the one who was hurt. I am the one who failed. I am the one who is searching. These stories act like anchors, keeping us pinned to a version of ourselves that no longer exists. We are carrying the corpses of our past selves into every new moment. Think of the energy it takes to maintain this false identity. It is an exhausting 24-hour-a-day performance. We are like actors who have forgotten the play has ended, still standing on a dark stage, reciting lines to an empty house. This exhaustion is what we call stress or burnout. But what if you just stopped? What if, for 1 minute, you dropped the story? If you didn't have a past, who would you be right now? If you didn't have a name or a reputation to uphold, what would be left? You would find a presence that is vibrant, alert, and terrifyingly free. This freedom is our original power, the state of being that predates the social conditioning of the world. It is the uncarved block of Taoism, the original face of Zen. It is the part of you that is not a product of your environment, your parents, or your culture. Society, however, has no use for a person who is truly free. A free person cannot be easily manipulated. A free person does not seek fulfillment in external objects. A free person understands that they are already the source of the very thing they are looking for. To keep the game of society going, the amnesia must be maintained. We are taught from a young age to look for ourselves in the eyes of others. We are told that our value is a variable, fluctuating based on our achievements or our failures. We become approval-seeking machines, forever hungry for a validation that never lasts. This is the hidden trap. We are looking for ourselves in the one place we can never be found, outside. We look for ourselves in mirrors, in bank accounts, and in the opinions of people who are just as lost as we are. It's like a man looking for his glasses while they are perched on top of his head. The Great Amnesia is also a temporal prison. We are almost never here. Our minds are either in the past, ruminating on what was, or in the future, worrying about what might be. We treat the present moment as a stepping stone to some better moment that never arrives. But the original power only exists in the now. It is the only place where anything is actually happening. The past is a memory trace in the brain. The future is a mental projection. Neither has any independent reality. Yet we spend our entire lives sacrificing the only reality we have for two ghosts. Take another deep breath and feel the weight of your body against the chair. Feel the temperature of the air on your skin. This is the ground of being. This is the point of entry. When you fully inhabit the present, the amnesia begins to dissolve because the ego cannot survive in the present. The ego is a creature of time. It needs a past to give it an identity and a future to give it a purpose. In the absolute now, the ego vanishes, and what remains is the pure, luminous consciousness that is your true nature. This is why all spiritual traditions emphasize the importance of the present moment. It is not a moral teaching, it is a tactical one. It is the only way to bypass the reducing valve of the brain. When you are fully present, your perception expands. The colors become more vivid. The sounds become more layered. The sense of separation between you and the world begins to soften. Quantum mechanics hints at this interconnectedness through the phenomenon of entanglement. Two particles, once connected, remain linked across any distance. What happens to one happens to the other instantaneously. We are not just connected to the universe, we are an expression of it. But the amnesia makes us feel like isolated islands. We feel the loneliness of the localized self. We think our thoughts are private, our pain is unique, and our death is final. This isolation is the root of all human cruelty. When you believe you are separate from others, you can justify hurting them. When you remember your original power, you realize that there is no other. There is only the same consciousness looking through a different set of eyes. This is the birth of true compassion, not as a duty but as a recognition. To hurt another is to hurt oneself. To love another is to love oneself. The path back to this remembrance is not about adding anything to yourself. It is not about learning more facts or acquiring more spiritual experiences. It is a process of subtraction. It is about stripping away the layers of false identity until only the truth remains. It is like Michelangelo's approach to sculpture. He didn't create the statue of David. He said he simply removed everything from the block of marble that was not David. Your awakening is the same. You are already the masterpiece. You just need to chip away the not you. This requires a radical honesty. It means looking at your fears, your attachments, and your pretenses without judgment. It means acknowledging that the person you have been pretending to be is a fiction. This can be terrifying. It feels like a kind of death. And in a way it is. It is the death of the small, limited self. But as the mystics say, die before you die and you will never die. When you let go of the mask while you are still alive, you discover the eternal life that was always hidden beneath it. We have been conditioned to believe that we are the drivers of our lives. We think we are in control, steering our way through the world. But if you look closely at your thoughts, you'll see they just appear. You don't choose your next thought any more than you choose the next beat of your heart. The original power is not the power of the driver. It is the power of the vehicle. It is the intelligence of the body, the wisdom of the cells, and the silent guidance of the intuition. When you stop trying to drive your life, life begins to live through you. This is the state of flow. It is when the athlete becomes the game, the musician becomes the song, and the observer becomes the observed. In these moments, the great amnesia is temporarily suspended. We feel a sense of ecstasy, a word that literally means to stand outside oneself. But we shouldn't just wait for these moments to happen by accident. We can cultivate the remembrance as a daily practice. It starts with the observation of the observer. Instead of being lost in your thoughts, you start to watch your thoughts. You notice the one who is noticing. This creates a gap, and in that gap, the amnesia loses its power. You realize that you are the space in which the thoughts happen, not the thoughts themselves. You are the screen on which the movie is projected, not the character on the screen. The character can be shot, but the screen is not wounded. The character can be rich, but the screen is not improved. The screen is always pure, always untouched, and always ready for the next scene. This is your original power, the invulnerability of pure awareness. As you start to dwell in this awareness, you'll notice a strange phenomenon. Your external reality begins to shift. Not because you are manifesting with your egoic will, but because the mirror of reality is reflecting your new state of being. When you no longer see yourself as a victim, you stop encountering victimizers. When you no longer see yourself as lacking, the world stops being a place of scarcity. The universe is a feedback loop. It doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you are. The great amnesia made you believe you were a beggar at the gates of life. The remembrance shows you that you are the king or queen who has been dreaming of being a beggar. You don't need to earn your way back into the palace. You just need to wake up and realize you never left. The world will try to pull you back into the dream. It will tell you that this is woo-woo, that it's not practical, that you have responsibilities. But what could be more practical than knowing who you actually are? What responsibility could be greater than the responsibility to be awake? We are living in a time of a great quickening. The old structures, both external and internal, are beginning to crumble. The amnesia is becoming harder to maintain because the frequency of the collective consciousness is rising. More and more people are feeling that shiver of recognition. You are not watching this by accident. You are not hearing these words by chance. Your soul is tired of the game. It is tired of the mask. It is ready to remember. The original power is calling to itself, like a deep resonance that bypasses the logical mind and speaks directly to the bones. But remembering is not a destination. It is a continuous unfolding. It is a choice you make in every moment. Will you be the mask or will you be the face? Will you be the noise or will you be the silence? Will you be the amnesia or will you be the awakening? Think about the architectural design of your modern life. Every screen, every notification, Every urgent deadline is a carefully placed brick in the wall of the amnesia. We have built a civilization that is allergic to stillness. We have created a world where doing nothing is seen as a moral failing, rather than the very portal through which our original power returns. This constant busyness is not an accident. It is a defense mechanism. If the world stops moving for even a minute, the silence becomes deafening. And in that silence, we might start to hear the whispers of the self we abandoned. We might start to realize that the success we are chasing is just a shiny distraction from the infinite wealth we already possess. Take a moment to look at your hands. Realize that the same intelligence that coordinates the billions of chemical reactions occurring in your cells every second is the same intelligence that orbits the planets around the sun. You don't do your heartbeat. You don't do your digestion. You are being lived by a vast, cosmic genius that doesn't need your ego's permission to function. Yet we spend our lives in a state of high alert, trying to micromanage the universe. We are like a passenger on a plane who is trying to flap their arms to help the pilot stay in the air. This is the exhaustion of the modern soul. We have forgotten how to trust the carry of the universe. We have forgotten that we are held. The ancient Greeks had a word for this remembering, anamnesis. It literally means the loss of forgetfulness. They believed that all knowledge is actually a form of recovery. We don't learn the truth, we recognize it. When a profound idea resonates with you, it isn't because it's new. It's because it's old. It's because it's a vibration you've known for eternity, finally being struck like a tuning fork in your heart. Plato spoke of the cave, where prisoners watched shadows on a wall and mistook them for reality. When one prisoner escaped and saw the sun, he realized that the shadows were just distortions of a higher truth. But when he returned to the cave to tell the others, they thought he was insane. They were comfortable in their amnesia. They preferred the predictable shadows to the blinding light of the real. We are those prisoners. Our shadows are our social media feeds, our bank balances, and our political tribalism. We fight over the shadows while the sun of our true nature sits right behind our backs, waiting to be noticed. The original power is the sun. The amnesia is the wall. Neuroscience is beginning to map this wall. They call it the default mode, network, the part of the brain that creates the narrative of me. It's the voice that constantly narrates your life, judges your past, and worries about your future. When people have profound spiritual experiences or use deep meditation, this network goes dark. And when the me goes dark, the universe turns on. People describe a feeling of oceanic bliss, a sense that they are connected to everything, and a realization that I was never who I thought I was. This isn't a hallucination. It is the temporary suspension of the biological filter. It is a glimpse of the reality that exists when the amnesia is lifted. But you don't need a mountain peak or a laboratory to experience this. You only need to change the direction of your attention. Most of our attention is leaking outward. We are paying attention to the world, literally giving our life force away to objects and dramas. To remember is to pull that attention back. Imagine your attention as a flashlight. Usually, you are shining it on the things in the room, the furniture, the dust, the walls. Now, try to turn the flashlight around and look at the bulb. Try to find the source of your own awareness. This is the inward turn that every master throughout history has spoken of. When you look for the I that is thinking, you won't find a thing. You won't find a soul nugget or a tiny person sitting in your brain. You will find a spacious, empty, luminous clarity. You will find the no thing that allows everything to be. This is your original power. It is the power of the void. In our culture, void or emptiness sounds scary. We think it means a lack of something. But in the quantum world, the vacuum is not empty. It is a roiling sea of infinite energy. It is the 0-point field. The emptiness at the center of your being is the same. It is the source from which all your creativity, all your love and all your intelligence flows. The Great Amnesia makes you think you are a bucket that needs to be filled. You think you need more information, more money, more love, more likes. But you are not a bucket. You are a well. The more you draw from your own center, the more the water flows. You don't need to get anything. You need to realize what you already are. Think about the concept of gravity. We think of it as a force that pulls things together. But Einstein showed us that gravity is actually the curvature of space itself. Reality isn't made of stuff. It's made of the relationship between things. You are not a thing. You are a relationship between the infinite and the finite. Every time you feel a moment of awe looking at a sunset, holding a newborn, or hearing a perfect piece of music, the amnesia is thinning. In those moments, the me is too small to contain the experience. The mask cracks, and for a second you breathe the air of the infinite. The goal of the human journey is not to live in that state 24/7. We have bodies and bills, after all, but to live with the knowledge of that state. It is to be in the world but not of it. It is to play your role in the movie with 100% commitment, while never forgetting that you are the one watching the screen. When you live from this place of remembrance, your relationship with fear changes fundamentally. Fear is always a fear of losing something. But when you know you are the source, you realize you can never truly lose anything. You are the ocean. You can lose a wave, but you can't lose the water. This realization is the ultimate cheat code for reality. When you stop being afraid of loss, you become unshakable. You become a presence that brings peace to every room you enter. Not because you are doing peace, but because you are peace. The frequency of your being overrides the noise of the world. We are currently witnessing a global dark night of the soul. The old ways of defining ourselves are failing. The stories we told ourselves about progress, security, and identity are falling apart. This is painful, yes, but it is also necessary. The amnesia is strongest just before the awakening. The pressure you feel in your life right now, the feeling that something has to change, is not a sign that you are failing. It is the pressure of the seed trying to break its shell. The shell is the amnesia. The plant is your original power. You cannot become what you are meant to be while remaining in the safety of the shell. So how do we live this? We start by becoming the silent witness. In the middle of an argument, in the middle of a traffic jam, in the middle of a crisis, pause. Take a breath and look at the one who is experiencing the situation. Remind yourself, I am the awareness of this moment, not the content of this moment. This simple shift creates a buffer of light around you. It allows you to respond rather than react. It allows you to bring your original power into the 3D world. You start to see that the problems of your life are not obstacles to your path. They are the path. They are the specific exercises your soul chose to help you wake up. Imagine a world where everyone remembered. Imagine a world where we didn't look at each other as competitors or strangers, but as variations of ourselves. The systems of exploitation, greed, and violence would collapse overnight. Not because we passed new laws, but because the old consciousness that sustained them would simply no longer exist. You are a pioneer of this new consciousness. By even entertaining these thoughts, you are performing an act of rebellion against the Great Amnesia. You are a cell in the global brain that is starting to fire in a new pattern. And as more cells fire together, the whole system shifts. The power you forgot is the power of identity. Not the identity of your name and your history, but the identity of the I am. This is the name of the divine in almost every major tradition. It is the first fact of existence. Everything else, your thoughts, your body, the stars, is a second fact. Return to the first fact. Stay there. Dwell in the simplicity of your own being. The world will try to tempt you away with its glittering shadows, but you have seen the sun. You cannot unsee it. You are beginning to remember that You are the architect of the reality you once thought you were a victim of. The Great Amnesia is ending, not because the world is changing, but because you are changing. You are waking up in the middle of the dream, and the moment the dreamer knows they are dreaming, they gain the power to change the dream. What will you create with your original power? Will you create more fear, more separation, more shadows? Or will you create beauty? Will you create love? Will you create a reality that is worthy of the infinite being that you truly are? The mask is falling. The stage lights are dimming. The play is over. It is time to step out of the character and walk back into the light of the morning. You are home. You have always been home. You just had to remember. Let's look closer at the mechanics of the veil, because the amnesia is not just a psychological glitch. It is a biological masterpiece. Within your own brain, there is a conflict between the ancient, survival-driven structures and the newer, expansive capacities of the frontal lobe. One part of you is screaming that you are a biological creature that must hunt, hide, and hoard to survive, while another part of you knows, with a quiet and terrifying certainty, that you are the light of the world. This tension is where the amnesia lives. We have been conditioned to listen to the scream and ignore the whisper. We have been taught that the whisper is imagination or fantasy, while the scream is reality. But what if it's the other way around? What if your imagination is the only part of you that is actually sane? What if the practical world is the fever dream and the inner world is the solid ground? Think about the way we perceive time. We see it as a straight line, a conveyor belt moving from a dead past into an empty future. This linear perception is the ultimate tool of the amnesia. It makes us feel like we are constantly running out of something. It creates the scarcity of the soul. But in the state of original power, time is not a line. It is a circle. Or better yet, it is a single eternal point that is constantly vibrating. Imagine you are standing in a dark room with a single candle. The candle illuminates a small circle around you. Everything else is in shadow. As you move, the circle of light moves with you. You might think that the room is being created as you walk, or that the shadows are failing to exist. But the room is already there in its entirety. You are simply experiencing it piece by piece through the limitation of the candle. The Great Amnesia is the belief that the candle is all there is. The original power is the realization that you are the one holding the candle, and that you have the power to turn on the overhead lights. But we are afraid of the overhead lights because they would reveal that the walls we've been leaning on are illusions. They would reveal that the enemies we've been fighting in the shadows are just our own reflections. We live in a culture of comparison, which is the fast track to forgetting. From the moment you enter the school system, you are taught to look to your left and your right to see how you are doing. You are taught that your value is relative. But the I am is absolute. It has no neighbor. It has no competitor. How can the infinite be better or worse than itself? When you compare yourself to another, you are essentially a wave looking at another wave and feeling inferior because it is taller or has more foam. You both forget that you are the ocean. You are both made of the same salt, the same depth, and the same power. The foam is just a temporary decoration. The height is just a momentary pulse of energy. This forgetfulness is maintained through the frequency of shame. Shame is the frequency of the mask. It is the belief that if people saw who we really were, they would turn away. But who are you really? If you peel back the layers of your mistakes, your regrets, and your flaws, you don't find a bad person. You find the same luminous void we talked about earlier. The amnesia makes us identify with our scars rather than the skin that healed them. It makes us identify with the broken glass rather than the light that shines through it. We have become a civilization of the broken, forever trying to glue the pieces back together, never realizing that the wholeness we seek is the very substance we are made of. Take a deep breath and feel that wholeness, even if it's just for a second. Feel the space inside your chest. Is there any shame in that space? Is there any comparison in the way your lungs draw air? No. The body doesn't know how to lie. Only the mind does. The body is always in the state of remembrance. It is the mind that wanders into the fog. This is why nearly every ancient tradition uses the body as the gateway. They don't tell you to think your way to God. They tell you to breathe. They tell you to dance. They tell you to sit still until the noise of the mind settles like mud at the bottom of a lake. When the water is clear, the reflection of the moon is perfect. You don't create the moon, you just stop stirring the water. Your original power is passive power. It is not the power of the hammer, it is the power of the magnet. It is the power of alignment. When you align your local consciousness with the universal field, things begin to happen for you rather than to you. This is what the ancients called grace. It is the universe recognizing itself in you and responding with a yes. But the amnesia tells you that you must make things happen. It tells you that you must struggle, sweat, and strive. It tells you that if you aren't exhausted, you aren't trying. This is the religion of effort, and it is the primary way we keep our power at bay. We are so busy trying to build the house that we forget we are already standing on the land. Consider the architecture of a cathedral. Why did they build them with such immense, soaring ceilings? It wasn't just for aesthetics. It was to trigger a biological response. When you look up into a vast space, your brain momentarily pauses its me narrative. The sheer scale of the space forces the ego to shrink, and in that shrinkage, the original power rushes in. You are a cathedral. You are a vast, interior space that has been filled with the clutter of 1,000 small thoughts. You have turned your temple into a storage unit. To remember is to clear out the furniture. It is to let the big empty back in. Because only in that emptiness can the music of the spheres be heard. We are afraid of the emptiness because we think it means loneliness. But loneliness is a function of the ego. The ego feels alone because it is separate. The spirit, however, feels all one. It is the difference between being a drop of water in the desert and being a drop of water in the sea. In the sea there is no loner because there is no other. The great amnesia is the desert. The remembrance is the sea. And the original power is the rain that connects the two. You are that rain. You are the bridge between the infinite and the finite. You are the way the universe gets to taste an apple, feel the wind, and experience the thrill of a heartbeat. Think about the sheer impossibility of your existence. The trillions of coincidences that had to happen for you to be here, right now, listening to this. The stars that had to die to forge the iron in your blood. The ancestors who survived impossible odds so you could draw breath. You are the crest of the wave of a 14 billion year process. How can you be nothing? How can you be small? The amnesia is a lie so large it becomes invisible. It is the water that the fish doesn't know it's swimming in. But every once in a while, the fish jumps out of the water. For a split second, it sees the world as it is. It sees the sun, the sky, and the shore. That jump is your awakening. It is the moment you realize that the world you've been worried about is just a tiny fraction of the real. And once you've seen the sky, you can never go back to being just a fish. You might go back into the water, but you carry the memory of the sun in your gills. This memory changes everything. It changes how you work, how you love, and how you die. You start to see the divinity in the mundane. You see the sacred geometry in a leaf, the cosmic order in a traffic jam, and the face of the creator in the person who annoys you the most. The original power is the power of translation. It is the ability to translate the frequency of the infinite into the language of the everyday. It is the artist who paints the unseen. It is the mother who loves without condition. It is the stranger who acts with spontaneous kindness. These are all moments where the amnesia has failed. The world is currently designed to make these moments rare. It is designed to keep you in a state of controlled agitation, but you are becoming uncontrollable. Because a person who has remembered their original power cannot be bought, cannot be bullied, and cannot be broken. They know that the worst-case scenario is just a change in the movie, and the best-case scenario is already their true nature. Take a deep breath and feel the I am once more. It is the silent note that has been playing beneath the noise of your entire life. It was there when you were born, it will be there when you leave, and it is here now. It is the only thing that is truly yours. And yet, it is the only thing you share with everyone else. The Great Amnesia is a shadow, and the light is getting brighter. You don't need to fight the shadow. You don't need to argue with it. You just need to be the light. The more you dwell in your remembrance, the more the shadows in your life will simply dissolve. They have no power of their own. They only have the power you give them through your forgetfulness. Wake up. Not to a new world, but to the world as it has always been. You are the power you have been waiting for. You are the answer to the questions you've been asking. You are the original face of the universe, looking back at itself through your eyes. Remember, remember, remember. If you look closely, you will see that the Great Amnesia has a leak. Every system, no matter how perfect, has a flaw, and the flaw in the amnesia is the phenomenon we call intuition. Intuition is the memory of the future. It is a signal from the real you that has already reached the destination, calling back to the current you who is still wandering through the fog. When you have a gut feeling, or a sudden flash of insight that defies logic, that is your original power bypassing the brain's security system. It is a direct transmission from the source. The amnesia tries to categorize this as coincidence or luck, but there are no coincidences in a unified field. There are only synchronicities, moments where the internal world and the external world align so perfectly that the veil becomes transparent. Think about those moments when you think of someone and they call you a minute later, or when you find the exact book you needed at the exact right time. These are not accidents. They are glitches in the matrix. They are proof that the separation you feel is an illusion. You are not a solitary atom bumping into other atoms. You are not in a single, continuous thread. When you pull on one end, the whole tapestry moves. The amnesia makes you think you are small so that you won't realize how dangerous you are to the status quo. A person who knows they are the universe cannot be controlled by fear. They cannot be obsessed with the trivial. They become a radioactive presence, infecting everyone they meet with the possibility of their own awakening. This is why the systems of the world are so loud. They have to be loud to drown out the silence of your own power. Take a deep breath and feel the stillness behind the noise. That stillness is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of everything. It is the white light that contains all colors. The Great Amnesia told you that you were a single color. Maybe you were told you were blue, sad, or red, angry, or gray, bored. But when you remember, you realize you are the white light itself. You have merely been looking through a colored lens. We often ask, if I am so powerful, why can't I just change everything right now? But that question comes from the ego. The ego wants to change the world to suit its own comforts. The original power, however, doesn't want to change the world. It wants to reveal it. It doesn't want to move the furniture in the dark. It wants to turn on the light so you can see there was never a reason to be afraid of the room. Transformation is not a process of becoming. It is a process of unbecoming. It is the alchemical fire that burns away everything that is not gold. And what is the fire? The fire is awareness. Simply being aware of your own patterns is enough to start melting them. You don't have to fight your anger or your fear or your amnesia. You just have to watch them. When you shine the light of pure awareness on a shadow, The shadow doesn't fight back. It doesn't scream. It doesn't resist. It just ceases to be. This is the effortless path. The great amnesia makes everything a struggle, but the remembrance makes everything a flow. You stop being the rower and start being the river. But there is a final threshold you must cross. It is the threshold of the last identity. Even after we let go of our names, our jobs, and our histories, we often cling to the identity of the seeker. We think we are the one who is waking up. But as long as there is a seeker, there is a sought. As long as you are looking for the truth, you are implying that the truth is somewhere else. This is the ultimate cosmic joke. You are the one you have been looking for. The eye that is looking for God is the same eye through which God is looking. The amnesia is so deep that we have been looking for our own face by staring into the back of our own heads. To wake up is to simply stop looking. It is to relax into the fact that there is nowhere to go, nothing to do, and no one to become. In the Zen tradition, they say, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The world doesn't change, but the one who sees the world changes. The wood is no longer just wood. It is a miracle of density and fire. The water is no longer just water. It is the liquid grace of the stars. The great amnesia is gone, and in its place is a profound, childlike wonder. Imagine living your life as if it were a masterpiece that you are both painting and experiencing. Every heartbreak, every triumph, every mundane Tuesday becomes a stroke of the brush. You are no longer a victim of the plot. You are the playwright who is curious to see how the next scene unfolds. This is the original power, the power to find meaning in the meaningless and light in the dark. We are entering an era where the amnesia can no longer hold. The frequency of the planet is shifting, and the old reality is starting to look like a poorly rendered video game. You can see the pixels. You can see the loops. And as you see them, you lose your fear of them. You realize that you are the player, not the avatar. As we reach the end of this reflection, don't try to remember these words with your mind. Your mind will forget them by tomorrow. Instead, remember them with your heart center. Let the feeling of these truths sink into your cells. Let them vibrate in your DNA. You are a biological bridge to the infinite, and the bridge is now open. The great amnesia was a necessary part of the journey. You had to forget so that you could have the joy of remembering. You had to get lost so that you could find yourself and realize you were never truly gone. The original power was never lost. It was just waiting for you to stop being so busy with the small self. Take one last deep breath, the deepest one yet. Hold it at the top, and as you release it, let go of the you that started this video. Let go of the person who has problems and plans. For a few seconds, just be. Be the silence. Be the space. Be the awareness that is reading these words. This is it. This is the destination. This is the original power. It's not a thunderbolt from the sky. It's the quiet, steady hum of your own existence. It is the peace that passes all understanding. And it has been here within you through every second of the amnesia, waiting for you to simply notice. Welcome back. The dream was long and sometimes it was a nightmare, but the sun is up now. The birds are singing a song you finally recognize. The mask is on the floor. And for the first time in a long time, you are looking at the world with your original eyes. You are the creator. You are the created. You are the act of creation itself. Remember. And in remembering, be free.